Now that is officially 2025, it's time to go through my Travel Wrapped 2024. So, where did I go this year? I visited a grand total of 23 countries. Here is the little map. As you can see, pretty much every continent apart from... Actually, yeah, every continent apart from Antarctica. Didn't quite get there. So how did I travel? For the most part, I travelled solo, completely by myself, wandering around, trying to find out where to go, what to see, all that sort of thing. I did a couple of group tours. Biggest group I was in was 16 people, smallest there were just 2 of us. Next up was just with a guide. So these were some group tours that I booked onto where I ended up being the only person. So for example, in Jordan and in Tanzania, I was the only person, so in Tanzania it was extra special because I had an entire safari jeep to myself. And lastly, there were some places where I was visiting family and friends. Where did I stay? So, I stayed in lots of different places. For the most part, I stayed in hotels. I did start off staying in hostels, stayed in quite a lot of hostels. But it just wasn't for me. It was just too loud. I had no space to take things out of my bag, so that's why I ended up being in more hotels. Stayed in a couple of Airbnbs, like I was mostly in Australia. Again, visited some friends and family and stayed with them. This tiny little square here, there's 2 colours there. So one of them, I stayed in 2 tents. One in Costa Rica, one in Jordan. And lastly, this last little sliver here, campervan in New Zealand. How many times did I visit an airport? Far too many times. Far too many times. 85 times I was in an airport last year. How many flights did I take? 50 different flights. So I had some which were direct, some which had stopovers, so obviously every time there was a stopover that was a new airport. I was obviously visiting multiple airports multiple times. So London Heathrow was my most visited airport. Visited there 6 times in 2024. 2 more in January. Oh, and yes, including one helicopter flight, which was my shortest flight of the year of 13 minutes. But what was my longest? My longest direct flight? Auckland to Hong Kong. That was 11.5 hours direct, and the entertainment screen in my seat had broken. Luckily I managed to sleep for most of it, so it wasn't too bad, but that was a long flight. My longest indirect flight, which was 14 hours and 10 minutes, was Heathrow to Miami and then on to San Jose. That one also had some delays involved, so it was actually a bit longer than that. The weather down in Costa Rica was awful, so boarded the plane and were told by the pilot that they needed extra fuel because they may have to circle the airport a few times, and if they couldn't land in San Jose, we might have to land in Nicaragua. That was fun after a long flight, but no, it was all good. We had about an hour or so delay, but landed safely into San Jose in the middle of the night. So how far have I actually travelled around the world this year? 120,000 kilometres, or 3 times around the world. Yeah, I worked out exactly how many miles each flight was, and I also worked out how many miles I drove, or kilometres I drove around New Zealand when I was doing the campervan, and included train journeys through Tokyo and the rest of Japan and South Korea. So yeah, I have a lot of kilometres under my belt this year. And lastly, probably what you're all thinking, how much did it cost? Well, actually, less than a year's wage. I definitely would have ended up spending more money had I been in the UK this year, what with paying bills and mortgages and going backwards and forwards to work and all that sort of thing. So actually it worked out cheaper for me to take a year off work and to go and travel rather than stay in the UK. So yeah, if you want to go travelling, it's not really as expensive as you think it is, and if you want any help planning, let me know. Got a bit of experience now.